Hello and welcome to Produced By. Just quickly before we begin, if you enjoy the show, please consider supporting it by joining our Patreon. You can choose from a list of memberships and will receive some exciting rewards. Thank you, and back to the episode. Hello Alfred, thank you for joining us today and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
So Alfred, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm from the start, I'm a 3D artist, technical 3D artist, and I've worked in commercials and worked with VFX for film and TV series and stuff like that. And but over the years, I've changed a bit into, like, now I teach a lot and I have a podcast about leadership and development in VFX. So I'm still doing VFX as a one-man production studio, but I'm also doing teaching and podcasting and different stuff. So now I'm a bit more
doing a lot of
diversified
things.
A bit.
Yeah. Cool.
And I live in Stockholm, Sweden. With now I have 2 kids. One is just 9 months. So now it's a struggle to find time for anything. So that's why my podcast haven't been releasing new episodes for a while.
I hope that after releasing this, you will get some followers and it will put more pressure to continue with your episodes.
Yeah, I need that. So that would be awesome.
So can we start with your background? You said you are from Stockholm. So what was your childhood like? What was it like growing up in Sweden?
Yeah, it was very idyllic. It was a really nice childhood. And if we talk about like coming into my career, it's pretty clear because my father was a photographer, and he used to work at Saab, the aerospace company here. So he was actually flying or going up in airplanes, taking pictures of other airplanes, and so that was really cool.
Yeah, that sounds
when
exciting.
You were a kid, and I had a lot of airplane models and stuff like that.
It's the company. Is it spelled SAAB?
Yes.
Oh wow, yeah,
exactly.
I heard of it. It's a big one.
And then they made cars and stuff like that, and but now they're still doing our military airplanes and stuff like that.
Gripans.
And some, yeah, exactly. So that's pretty interesting for a small country like Sweden to have our own fighter jets.
Yes, small, but as far as I know, it's a very innovative country with some well-known brands.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Yeah, and that's also something that ties into my upbringing. That we had computers pretty early. So I'm 38 at the moment. So when I grew up in the late 80s, 90s, we got computers, and since my dad was a photographer, he got to bring Photoshop home, so he could train at home. So I had a proper license of Photoshop from when I was, I don't know, 7 or something. So I started to experiment with that. Yeah. So I started to experiment with that. And then Adobe also released a 3D software called Adobe Dimensions that they were supposed to use at my dad's job to replace logos and stuff on airplanes. So when, we have a prospect in Italy, let's put their logo on this airplane. So then they could actually wrap the 3D or the logo on the curved airplane. It's so simple today, but back then it was a hard thing to do.
And is the software my dad could also still bring around?
No, I think it was discontinued a long time ago, but I think they've released something with the same name later. So I'm not sure what's up with that. But so I actually started to work with 3D when I was, I don't know, 9 or something like that. And
just and then, gonna say that you are quite lucky to start building the skills from such a young age and know probably what career to go to?
Yeah, well, that was the thing, because I never thought I could work in this industry, do like work with movies and VFX in that way. But I still remember what set me onto this path, because one of the first movies I got to see in the cinema was the original Lion King. And as a small kid, that was of course really cool. And then I saw some behind the scenes footage of the wildebeest running into the ravine.
Yeah.
And that was apparently made in 3D somehow back then. So I saw a breakdown of this on, I guess, public television, because there weren't much YouTube stuff back then.
Yeah.
And that was so inspiring. So when I'm thinking back, like, that was what set me onto this career path, seeing that breakdown.
Yeah.
But then I still didn't think you could work with this until like after high school. I studied like graphic design in high school. And then I found like in education, you can actually study to be a 3D animator. I wonder what that is. So, and then I remember when I interviewed to join that school, I said, yeah, my dream would be to work on like Hollywood movies, but I know that that's probably like 10 years away.
Yeah.
But then it took 2 years, and then on my internship I got to work on like Hollywood movies. So it was pretty
Do you remember
quick.
what was the first film that big one you worked on, and you're like, oh, now it happened?
Yeah, the first one was Stardust, where so I worked at Ghost in Copenhagen, and they worked really closely with DNEG in London. So we got to go to DNEG, a few guys, and use their dynamic systems. Like they have their own rigid body system back then, because there weren't any good ones in Maya or maybe Houdini, but no one used Houdini back then. So we got to go to DNEG for a few weeks and simulate. In the end of the sequence, in the end of the film, there's this the main characters run through this hall, and there's a witch who's like exploding all the windows or mirrors or whatever it is. So there are glass shards flying everywhere. So that was the first like big thing that I could see in the cinema. Like, oh, I did that. So that was really cool. That was a great feeling.
And did you say your name in the credits? They've been a great achievement if you did.
Yeah, I don't remember if I was credited on that one.
That's a shame.
I think I was.
And as you said that you studied animation, was it in Sweden, in Stockholm, or somewhere abroad?
It was a small town in Sweden called Eksjö, and it was like a 2-year education, and they just started up the 3D part of it.
Yeah.
So the education actually sucked. It was like the teachers didn't know what they were talking about, and the curriculum was we were doing like graphics for cell phones, and that was really crappy back then. Some vector format, and
so we're like testing
but
guinea
what
pigs.
It gave me, we were for sure guinea pigs. But what it gave me was the time to just focus on what I had been doing on my spare time, and also I met a lot of great people. So we were like helping each other and pushing each other, and we were actually six of us. We moved together in a big apartment, and then we had our own like a room with just our computers, and you can wake up like if you went in there any time of the day or night. There would be someone awake working. So that was like a great like, oh, I can't sleep. Let's go up and see what Matthias is doing.
Yeah. No, but it sounds like a good idea. If there are, more people working like this together, then once one has an issue, the other one can help and, put brains together. So
Yeah.
helps with the work overall. And
Yeah, and I realized that many times. Just now, I share an office with some other freelancers and a small like animation company, and I ask one of my like friends for help, and then I just explain the problem to him, and then I figure it out while I talk, so he doesn't have to do anything.
yeah,
So it
yeah.
helps just to have someone to talk to, even if they don't know what you're
Mhm.
doing.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. And then once you finished your studies, how did you then start looking for a job, or how was the industry in general back then?
Yeah, we were in the education. We had like internship periods, so we were supposed to go out for 10 weeks and then come back for 10 weeks and for like a last course, and then go out again for 10 weeks more on an internship. So we we applied. There was, because we were the first class, we didn't have anyone to show us how to do it, and like what's the like expectations. We didn't have any.
Mhm.
So I applied to a small company here in Stockholm, and went there for an interview and actually got an internship position.
Mm.
But then I heard one of my friends at the school, when he was talking to a company in Denmark, in Copenhagen, called Ghost VFX, and they were interviewing him over the phone, and I could hear them asking him all of these like questions that, okay, do you know any scripting? Do you know any animation? Do you know any rigging? Which
Mhm.
he didn't. Like, he was more of an artist guy and I was more of a technical guy. And he asked
Yeah.
him, and they asked him for all the technical parts. And I could hear this overhearing the conversation. So I was like, maybe they're looking for someone like me. And Ghost was a bigger company, and they did cooler stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah. So then I applied to them, and we both got internship positions there.
Oh, nice.
So that was great.
I thought in the end
And then
you
when
took his spot, and
yeah, it
instead of
would have been bad, but
Mm.
luckily we both got there.
Mhm.
And then the two of us have actually followed. Like, we started a company together later, and then we were in Copenhagen, but then we ended up in Stockholm, both of us, and now
Mhm.
we have kids the same age who are friends, and they share almost the same name. It's very
Yeah.
independent of each other. We named our kids like almost the same.
No, it sounds like awesome friendship that started in a young age and continued. But
Yeah.
really cool. I'm because I've been both to Stockholm and Copenhagen just to visit, and I really enjoyed both places. I don't know if it's because it's Scandinavia or just the cities or countries, but the fact that you worked or lived in both makes me kind of jealous because I really enjoyed it. So it's really good.
Well, now it's winter, so now it sucks. Both Copenhagen and Sweden or
Yeah.
Stockholm.
And I don't know Ghost VFX that well. So is it the company? Is it still around? And if so, how big the company is?
Yes, when I started back in 2005, I think it was, we were maybe 25 people,
Mhm.
based in Copenhagen in one office. And now, while I was there, they grew to maybe, I don't know, 40 or 40, 50 people. And now I think there are several hundred, and they have offices in multiple locations in the
Oh yeah,
world.
it's like
And
a
they
big one. Yeah.
got bought. Yeah, so now they're like part of the same. I don't know if they got bought by Ingenuity Studios, or if their mother company. So now they're like, I think they share the CEO with Ingenuity Studios,
Mhm.
and now they're working on like Star Wars and all the coolest Hollywood stuff.
Oh yeah, like one of
Back when
the
I started,
top ones.
they were doing more commercials, and
Mhm.
yeah, and then we started to get into more Hollywood stuff with Stardust, and
Yeah.
We worked on Hellboy 2, and
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah. So once you started working there in Ghost, can you continue with your journey? How did you find it, and what were your next steps?
yeah, I can tell you about the first day when we got there, and yeah, Swedish and Danish is pretty similar, but the pronunciation in Denmark is so different that it's really hard for us Swedes to understand.
Mhm.
And when we got there,
And
me
sorry,
and
is
my
it
friend
same?
Jesper.
Is it same vice versa, or is it just from one side to the other?
Yeah, I think it depends on where in Denmark people live,
Mhm.
because back in the days they only had one TV channel in Denmark and there were two in Sweden. So
Okay.
if they lived close to Sweden, like if they lived in Copenhagen, they could see Swedish television. So
Okay,
then
I
they
see.
learned to Swedish, but we never learned Danish.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, but now I think now the younger generation still they have a hard time understanding Swedish as well.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
you can read it really well, but when you hear it, it's really difficult.
Mhm.
So, but anyways, when we were sitting there, it's like under a stairs, like tucked away, the two interns, and we got assigned on a project, and this project manager, who's he's so nice when you get to know him, but he was like playing with us interns, and like he was the mean producer, coming there speaking in Danish with us, and we were too shy to like ask questions, and we got assigned two different things. So my friend Jesper, he got assigned to like animate something and simulate something, and I got assigned to model and do like make it look nice, which was like we should have been switching roles, but we were so nervous as interns. We were like, oh, how should we do this? And oh. But then finally we said, is it okay if we switch?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, sure. So
Uh,
it wasn't a big problem. We
mhm.
just felt it for us. It felt like a big problem.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
then it went really well, and we just yeah we were developing a lot. I can tell you that, just sitting in an environment where people know what they're doing, and you have experienced people to talk to and ask
Mhm.
questions.
And how did
And
you find the experience if you compare it working in like proper real company compared to your education before? Was it very different? Was it a shock for you, or was it quite similar?
it was a long time ago now, so it's hard to remember. But yeah, I think of course, working with hard deadlines and projects where you really have to deliver when you're in school. If you miss a deadline, there's
Mhm.
no like there's not a big company waiting for your delivery.
Yeah.
So of course that was a big difference, and I think that also helped me to really like push myself and to really, okay, I need to deliver something, so I need to get this done in time,
Mhm.
and maybe plan better, scale, like, okay, I won't be able to do this, so maybe we can scale it down to this, and we have something to deliver.
Yeah. And how long you worked in the company?
So I stayed at Ghost for 2 years, and then yeah, the living situation was pretty hard. Was as a junior in a company, you don't make that much money, and the housing market in Copenhagen is crazy. So I for the first year I lived in Copenhagen at like first at hostels, and then finding a room somewhere to rent, and then then I moved to Malmo and commuted because there's a bridge between
Mhm.
Copenhagen and Malmo. But that took like yeah maybe 1 hour if it was a good day one way, and maybe 1.5 2 hours if it was a bad day.
Mhm.
So after a year doing that, I felt like no, I can't do this anymore.
Mhm.
So then I actually left Ghost and found a job in at Massive, the games company in Malmo. So
you transitioned from working in films to working in games.
yeah, I actually worked in the cinematics team at Massive, so it was very similar. We were still using the same softwares, and although we did do some in-game cinematics as well, using the game engine and stuff like that.
And can you maybe expand a bit on what does it mean working in cinematics?
Yeah, so we did like the cutscenes in the games, and we also made a trailer for the game before it was released. We made this epic war. I don't know.
To work on
theme.
Some bigger games?
Back then, Massive was doing their own like real-time strategy game called World in Conflict. So I worked on the trailer for the expansion of that game called Soviet Assault.
Soviet Assault.
So we animated a lot of like Soviet tanks and stuff like that.
Yeah. And how was the experience there then, or how long you stayed there?
Yeah, I only stayed there for 6 months because during the time there, a few friends we started talking about starting our own company.
Wow.
But the experience working there was awesome because everyone was so passionate. Of course, everyone in this industry is very passionate about their jobs, but everyone were gamers. So during lunch break, we were like playing Call of Duty and against each other. And sometimes we had we were different floors in the building. So the cinematics team was on one floor, and then like some developers on another floor. And sometimes we had competitions between the different floors, playing the other teams. So that was awesome. Everyone was eating lunch really quickly to be able to play as much as possible. So that was really fun.
Yeah, it sounds like.
But we also during that time we also had like leadership problems. We struggled a bit with our boss, and so we're probably going to talk more about stuff like that. But just to set it up, I got to see like what happens in a team when the boss is behaving in this way, or when you get conflicts like that, which probably colored me and made me take this other path later in my career.
So was it the reason why you left in the end, or did you want to pursue the own company with your friends?
Yeah, I think it was part of the reason why. Maybe that made us hurry up a bit more with the plans to start a company. But so maybe it was a good thing that we got out of there quickly, just to start this. So we were actually four guys who studied together at this 3D school, who we've been out working on different companies, and then we like merged together again, and we had all this experience from different companies, different ways of doing things, and we started talking about maybe we should start something. And one of us was in a company where he met two producers, one a film producer and more of a creative director type. So they also joined. So we were six people, like having secret meetings in like cafes in Malmo, so no one would see us, like in the back room somewhere, because everyone was really like paranoid. What if they figure out we're planning to leave?
Didn't you or did you know who's going to be kind of the boss of the company, or didn't you have issues about who's going to lead it?
We didn't at first. So this is a fun story, because we were six guys starting this. The company was called Upper First, and when we were going around talking to like potential clients, and we said, we're six people, we don't have a CEO, we're all like leading this on like consensus. We are so focused on the same vision, so it's gonna work. and everyone was telling us, no, that's so stupid. It will never work. And it actually worked for maybe 3 years. It was awesome. The
was
first 3
expecting
years.
less. Yeah.
Yeah, we of course we had some conflicts, and but we were so passionate, and we were, in the beginning it felt a bit unreal or surreal to be able to just go hang out with your friends in an office that was like, we decorated it like a home. So we had like half of the office was like a play area with a sofa and a PlayStation and stuff like that. So it was really weird in the first few years to just go there in the morning. Like, this is insane that I can just go here, work with my friends, and we worked hard, but we also played hard and partied a lot and had a good time.
If you want to boost your online presence, check out our digital marketing agency called Trailblazed. You can also enroll in our Skillshare course called The 10 Tips on How to Succeed in Your Creative Career, which was inspired by the podcast. Lastly, make sure to subscribe to our weekly newsletter called Creative Spotlight to stay up to date with the show and more. Links are in the show notes. Thanks.
It sounds, sorry to interrupt, but like those some American films when they set up a startup at university, party in the evening, working hard during the day.
Yeah, it was a bit like that in the beginning, but then our visions for the company, or our needs as people, changed.
Mhm.
So three of the founders, they had kids and like houses or apartments, and after a few years they were starting to think, okay, maybe it's time we start to earn some more money. We need to, like, because in the beginning we were doing a lot of like cool projects. We tried to make a name for ourselves, so we worked a lot with MTV and did really cool projects, but they didn't pay a lot. And then we did some like boring like infotainment stuff for industry companies and animating machines and illustrating how stuff worked. And those projects paid better. But when we were like, in the beginning, we focused more on the fun projects. But then after a few years, when like some people's wives and kids started to complain, like, oh, maybe we need to, it would be nice to be able to go on a holiday trip, or to, like, we need to move to a bigger apartment. Maybe you should make some more money, not just play around at work. So then we started to get like different, like, I was one of the like single bachelor guys, and I could just continue doing the small fun projects that didn't pay that well. So then we started to like drift apart and like, oh, we should do this. No, we should do this. And then we started to get more conflicts, and then we started to have different like opinions on how to get where we wanted to, and then it also started to, for me, it started to be not as inspiring anymore, because we were doing more like corporate jobs. So after the first 3 years we started to drift apart, and I started to lose motivation, but it was still hard. Like, we were still friends and we had fun together, but it started to like, we started to what do you call it, get some friction, and it started to lose some of the like glamour of being a startup. Now it was more of a regular job. So I stayed there for 3 more years. So I stayed for 6 years, and in the end, it was like, oh, I need to get out of this somehow. But it was so hard to leave something you've spent 6 years to build, and we had like employees, and so when I left, I think we were
roughly how much it grew, how many people in the end?
I think we were 10 people when I left, something like that. So we had just a few employees, and we didn't want to grow too much because we didn't I had seen what happened at Ghost when they grew from 25 to 40 people and how that changed everything.
Mhm.
And like when you read about it, you see that there's a phase when you go from 5 to 15. There's going
Yeah.
to be a big shift. So we didn't want to. Yeah, we wanted to grow organically. But yeah, then I finally decided to leave, and that was a really hard decision.
And did you also over time set up or make someone as a head of the company, or were you still together sharing the vision and deciding together?
Yeah, a few years in, we decided for one of us to be the CEO, to be like the face of the company. But still, we were still doing all the discussions, and so we still had the friction.
And is the
in
company
the gears.
still around?
No, so when I left, that must have been in 2014, I think. Then they continued for 2 more years, and then they decided to close it all down.
Yeah. And something I'm curious about, it may be a good advice if you share. How did you actually in the beginning look for the clients? Because it might be challenging if the company isn't established yet, doesn't have a name. So how did you find clients, especially as you said, big names like MTV?
Yeah. Well, what made me, when we first started talking about starting something, it was those 2 producer guys who were the key, because they had worked in the industry for a few years and they had the connections on a lot of companies. And I think if it would only be the four of us, like 3D and 2D artists coming together, then it would have been really hard. But when we had those producer guys who knew how to talk to clients and who knew how to like invoice and how should we make the deals to appeal to the industry clients, and so that was really what made me feel comfortable enough to leave like a safe employment to start this. And I think now I've done the same journey myself. So I've worked in the industry. Like after I left Upper First, then I started freelancing, just like a one-man band, and that was really difficult. And I struggled a lot to find clients, and I like contacted agencies and stuff like that, but it was really hard and it was really stressful. And then I got an employment somewhere, and then I left after a year and started freelancing again. Then it was a bit better. And then I came back, worked for a few more years, and then I started freelancing again 3 years ago. And now finally I feel now I have the connections and I have the maybe the inner calm to do that. So now I am in that position that I have the connections. But also like the MTV projects, they came from another one of our classmates who actually got like his internship. I think he had his internship at MTV and then got hired, and he got like rose in the ranks. So then he could give work to us.
Yeah. So as you did a few employments and freelancing in between, what was it that kind of helped you in those freelancing phases? Was it because you got some connections from the employment, or maybe you learned some skills and experiences?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, when I first started freelancing, I had some safety because I could freelance for my old company. So when they needed someone to animate something, they could contact me. And during that time, I also moved. I left Malmö and then I moved to Linköping, a smaller town, but then I ended up in Stockholm. And like Stockholm is the capital. It's a bit bigger, and I got a freelance gig at the small animation studio. So then I got to know them. So I was sitting at their office. So I think it's more of you start to get the connections. So then I got to know them. I got work from them, And then when I got hired again, I started working at Important Looking Pirates, who is like a big VFX studio here
That's
in
something I
Stockholm.
wanted to ask you about later.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
I know the company. Definitely the name sounds cool. I don't know if you know, but I'm curious, why is it actually called the way it is?
Yeah, it's a reference to Monkey Island, the old
Oh,
game.
okay. Yeah.
And there's a scene in there where you walk into a bar and you walk into the back room and there are 3 important looking pirates sitting there, and they give you like side quests or things you should do.
Okay.
So they actually have at their office, they have a gold room, a conference room that is all gold, like gold curtains, gold like carpet on the floor, gold walls. And in there they have a huge painting of this scene in Monkey Island, like hand painted. You can see all the brush strokes, but it's like the pixels painted
Yeah.
perfectly.
Oh,
And it's
wow.
so
That,
cool.
that's really something I've been wondering about, because I follow the company on social media. They're probably like among the big ones because they work on big, also Hollywood blockbusters. I was always curious this name because it just sticks in your mind, and I thought, why?
Yeah.
And do you know, are they like the founders fans of the game, or is there
Yes.
some? Oh, they are.
So that when they started, they were brainstorming a lot, and they still are real nerds.
Okay.
So they were like, okay, what, going back to their inspirations as kids, and that's how they landed on this.
Yeah. So
And
what
now
was?
it doesn't hurt now that it's like you have ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, and then you have ILP, Important Looking Pirates. It's like they're almost the same.
So how was your experience working there?
Yeah, it was the reason I actually started there was I was talking to a friend, and I was a bit like, yeah, I don't know what to do with my career. I was struggling a bit with like the direction, and she suggested that, yeah, but you're like a technical guy, you like to learn and do difficult things. Why don't you apply to a bigger company where you can like work in a team and you can learn from really like specialized people? And I had been a bit hesitant to apply to Important Looking Pirates because they felt a bit they felt a bit scary, like maybe I won't fit there. And they were a bit mystical. They didn't do any, like, no one knew about them. They were in a basement somewhere. But when I finally applied and I went there on an interview and got to meet the founders, like the owners, it was, you can really feel the passion. And I think that's something that is very special about that place, that they still don't have any or any investors or anything. It's still just a few guys who started it, and they're artists in the soul and nerds, and that's like is like you can feel it in the entire company that it's so inspiring. And I also got that, like, I got to sit next to one guy who was really technical, and I started to learn Python scripting, and I started to learn match move, if you're into VFX terms. And I learned a lot, started to do more effects, doing more simulations, and that was so much fun in the beginning. Like, I felt, oh wow, this is the place to be. So many nice people. But then after like 6 months, I started to, like, on a downward spiral. I felt I'm just sitting here doing the same thing over and over, or like I got good at simulating cloth. So I simulated sails for pirate ships for like a TV series called Black Sails. So I spent 3 months working on one episode, and then I jumped on the next project and I simulated like a leather jacket for someone for a commercial. And so then I started to feel like, oh, I'm just doing the same thing. like, and I didn't think about it back then, but what I've realized later is that I really need the variation. So I'm much better suited to work on commercials and small projects where it's like one challenge for 2 weeks and then you jump on a new project and there's a new challenge. But it was also hard to see this because I was really motivated by the cool projects at ILP. Because back then we were working on the first season of Westworld and like Fear the Walking Dead, and we worked on a Hollywood movie called The Shallows, one of the shark movies. So it was really cool. It's so cool when you go to a party and someone asks, "What are you doing?" "Oh, well, I'm working on this TV series called Westworld." And so you feel like in those situations you feel like a rock star when someone else, "Yeah, what do you do?" "Yeah, I work in the bank," or like,
I
don't want to talk about that.
I feel like I completely understand your point, and it makes sense. I can just agree with that.
So that's so it was hard to leave Important Looking Pirates because I felt this is a really cool place, a lot of nice people. We're doing like really cool work, and it's like the status of working there is so high. It's like one of the best places in Sweden. Now it's like one of the best VFX companies in the world. I would say, winning awards and stuff. So
absolutely, I would say just from my limited knowledge, from what I know from social media or internet, I didn't know the story behind it or haven't spoken with anyone who worked there before, but my impression was also, big company from Sweden working on exciting projects. Also, it's interesting because it's not based in London or US, but it's actually Swedish based, so it makes it somehow unique. So I've always had this impression it's a somehow cool company.
And I think the really big change is the big difference is that it's still owned by artists. It's still owned by those people that really care about the final result. And there are no investors saying, "Well, it's good enough. Let's send it to the client, and they're going to be happy, and they're going to approve it, and we don't have to work on it anymore." But they have this like, "No, we can still push it. We can make it better for their own sake." And I think that has made their success. They've been so like they've over delivered. So now people come to ILP to get quality work, and they know they get that. And I think that is also that's also really nice for the people working there, because I have one of my friends who worked in a different studio. He was a bit frustrated with that they were like, "Yeah, we're not allowed to work on it anymore because now the client is happy. So, but I would still like to polish it a bit more. But no, my producer says it's good enough." So yeah.
And do they have locations? Do they have more locations even outside of Sweden, or are they based in Stockholm only?
Yeah, they still have the main office in Stockholm, but I think they have a small office in Germany, in Hamburg maybe, and they have a few people in London. I think I don't know if they have an office or if they're just a company on paper and then people work remote.
And also, out of curiosity, are there any other such a well-known or successful or popular VFX companies in Sweden?
Yeah, we have Goodbye Kansas. That is.
I heard of it.
Yeah, they're actually.
Didn't it have troubles during the unfortunate few months?
They went bankrupt a few months ago, but then they managed to I don't know if they found some new investors or they managed to pour some more money into it, and so now they're still running. They were like had different directions, but they managed to save the visual effects part.
Yeah.
So that is still running. But that's like, it's really interesting to see, because that company is like, they have a lot of investors. It's a public company.
Also, it's on a stock exchange.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So there you can really compare and see the differences in like how that affects the company, and like that was where my friend worked, who said, they say it's good enough. We have to we have to deliver now.
Yeah. No, it's
they had to make money for the investors.
Yeah, of course. It's interesting comparison for sure, and very interesting to see that there are such big companies in Sweden. It's not like one of the hubs such as US or UK. So it's very cool.
Yeah. But one thing that is it's really difficult for Swedish companies, because people might not know that there are a lot of like tax incentives for film companies to do parts of their production in London, for example. Then they get like tax deductions.
Yeah.
And in Canada they have a lot of this, and now I think they have it in Germany as well. But there's none of that in Sweden. So in Sweden you have to pay full price. So that's why like we have to compete with quality. Otherwise, like, they're cheaper. Let's go with them instead.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app, get in touch to provide your feedback, or share any ideas for future guests. Thank you, and see you soon.